Hi, my name is Chris from We Communicate. I'm a French teacher for speakers of English. And in this video, I'd like to talk about the challenges of organizing our learning of French or any foreign language for that matter, because I often see learners make a great start, show a lot of motivation in the beginning, and then life gets in the way. We lose track of our objective. We lose track of our beautiful project of learning French. It fizzles out, but it's a shame because it really is very, very achievable. So to get started, I'd like to mention a few important points when we learn a language. It's important to know that the generic term, the phrase, I am learning French or learning French can be divided into two parts. There's the learning, what it actually means, and there's the language, what it actually means. The clearer we understand these two terms, the better we learn. And I'm saying this because I want you to learn well. It's a bit like starting a business. The definition of I am starting a business isn't understood the same way by someone who's done 20 businesses before or by someone who's launching their first business. They both use the same word, I am starting a business, but it's a bit like learning a language. The experienced language learner won't mean the same thing as someone who's starting. And it really is all a matter of definition and about seeing clearly into what we're doing. So assuming language learning isn't your first passion in life, there are chances, at least at a beginner's level, that you might not see clearly into what is expected of you. And it's a very, very real thing that I see time and time again. And I'll compare this to something we can all relate to. Perhaps you've heard the provocative story that says that if you took all the money away from a certain country and redistributed it equally among people, well, that same money would find its way back to the original owners. It would find its way back to the people who had the most money to start with. And the reason is that these people actually know what they're doing. They have a method that enabled them to get the money in the first place. They understand how to gauge a market. They understand branding. They understand how to build a team. They understand customer service and perhaps 100 other things that experience taught them. The exact same thing is true for languages, and it's all about seeing clearly in what we're doing. This comes from either personal experience or a bit of help and education from a teacher. But whatever we do, it's all about seeing clearly into what we're doing when we learn a language. So to recap the idea one last time, I said there were two parts to it. There's learning and there's language. There's understanding what we mean by learning, and there's understanding what we mean by language. And the clearer you see in it, the better you learn. Let's talk about learning a language now. We can compare it to a pile of logs that you have to move from one place to another. And the pile of logs symbolizes learning the language. So when the initial pile of logs is moved from here to over there, we can consider that we know the language. But it's not important if you carry the logs with your arms, if you throw them from one place to another or put them in a wheelbarrow. That's the method by which you learn. That's secondary to me. This is not exactly what we're talking about. For the purpose of our discussion today, we can consider that this is secondary. It comes down to the difference between reading books in French, watching films, chatting with a teacher, and that's the method by which you learn French. And any method can be brilliant, provided you really understand what you're trying to accomplish. What matters truly is understanding the job. Understanding clearly that there's big logs, that there's small logs, that the big logs go at the bottom of the pile. So it doesn't really matter how you accomplish the job. That to me at the moment is secondary. Without an understanding of structure within the language, you're at risk of saying, oh, there's a log over there, I think I'll pick it up. Where does it go? I think I have a vague notion that it goes over there to that other pile over there. So you move this one log from one pile to the other. A while later, you come back to the original place, the original pile, and you might say, oh, there's another log over there. I think I'll pick that one up now. It's a medium one this time. Okay, I think I'll go and put it next to that big log over there. But this time, you know what? I think I'll put it on my shoulder for a bit of variety instead of carrying it in a bag. The issue I'm trying to point at with my simplistic examples is that you might not understand which logs you're meant to pick up first. But whether you carry them on your shoulder in a bag or in a wheelbarrow, that's something else entirely. That's the choice between one app and another. This being said, we can say a word about the method also very quickly. A bad method of learning, and believe me, there are many, many bad methods of learning out there, especially in the age of the internet, will label small logs as big logs. So there you are, picking up logs in the wrong order, and then your pile of wood crumbles and never reaches any sort of shape or structure. The pile of wood being your French, of course. As absurd as it sounds, this is what happens in reality. This is why the learning fizzles out. This is why people give up. There wasn't a clear enough plan. And I'll agree that even with a clear plan, the learning can still fizzle out, but this is rather due to psychological reasons, and it can happen to anyone. The problem usually is that learners will say, I can use this very important French verb in the present tense, and this is important. This is a very big victory. You need that victory. And this is a big log, and it goes right at the bottom of your pile. But they'll also say, and I learnt this neat French expression the other day, but that's a small log, and you're confusing the two. Do you know why learners say, I need more vocabulary? Perhaps it's happened to you also. This is like saying, I need more wood. In reality, you need big logs at the bottom, and then you build up to your medium logs. And the smaller the logs, the more precise your vocabulary is. But calling everything by the generic term vocabulary is a bit like a mason saying, I need more house parts. In reality, what they need is either more cement, more bricks, more glass panes, or more tiles. It's not all the same. As a learner who's not particularly passionate about French, you might not have the inclination to start wondering about such things. You might not want to train your eye to recognize the small logs, the medium ones, and the big ones. You might not want to learn all the parts that make up a house. So someone has to do it for you, and this is perfectly fine, by the way. It can either be an app or a teacher. If you're lucky enough to find yourself a capable French tutor or a good method of learning, they'll tell you which are the big logs, and they'll also tell you why they're important, why certain parts of French are more important than others, so that you understand and so that you can see clearly into the job you're doing. And hopefully these repeated explanations will help you to see clearly into the language. It'll stop being a random collection of words. But as I said, not every language tutor sees clearly in the pile of logs, for which there can be many reasons, which I won't get into now because it's not the point of this video. If there's one thing I'd like you to walk away with after watching this video, is that the phrase I am learning French can be broken down into two parts. I am learning French. And the clearer you see into the meaning of learning and into the meaning of French, the better you'll learn. I hope it was useful. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Chris from We Communicate. Bye.